Now let's go through agile ceremonies. So there are 4 major ceremonies associated with agile. The first one is sprint planning, daily stand-up, sprint review, and sprint retrospective. Let's check them out in detail. The first ceremony is sprint planning. This is normally done at the beginning of the sprint, and it's only done once per sprint. This could take anywhere between 1 to 2 hours, and the whole team will be part of this. The product owner plays an important role in determining what work items should be part of this particular sprint, and will move them from the product backlog to the sprint backlog. And product owner, while he or she plays a major role, the team can also help the product owner and suggest what items they would like to see in this sprint. And the team then discusses the stories in detail. One team member would talk about the estimate, will try to estimate effort for a given story, and the rest of the team will also do the same, and they all will have to come up with a consensus on the total number of points for this particular story. So they do this for all stories, and once they have the overall estimate, the sprint planning meeting will be done. So given that a sprint could be between 2 to 4 weeks based on the agreed upon sprint duration, the sprint stories should also be should not be too big, or so that they should be able to complete them within the sprint duration itself. And about estimating points, so there is a method called planning poker which is normally followed, and in planning poker what each team member does is, the first team member would describe the scope and the various tasks that are involved with a particular story, and the rest of the team will start giving ballpark figures about the estimate that they think is ideal for this particular story based on the scope. So for example, say for a given story, if one team member says 8 and the other team member says 10 and some other team member says 12, and they could come up with 4 or 5 different numbers, and each one will have to provide the justification on why they think a story is needs more points or less points. Once they give the justification, everyone has to agree upon a single number, and that will be the estimate for that story. And sprint points could be or might be associated with the number of man hours. So for example, say a particular item requires 5 man days, that could convert into sprint points of 5 sprint points in case of some teams, and in case of some teams that could get that would be equivalent of say 200 points. So points need not be an equivalent in terms of time, and the normal process is, in case of sprint points or story points, they follow Fibonacci series. So the points will be like 1, 2, 3, 5, 7, 11, 13, etc. And one observation here is it's important that you don't create stories which are too big. So you need to create stories which can be very small and manageable within a sprint. So if a story is too big, it's better to divide that into multiple stories. And the next important agile ceremony is daily stand-up. This is performed once per day, the beginning of the sprint, and this would be typically 10 to 15 minutes, and it will cover what a team member did yesterday, what they plan to do today, and are there any blockers that are impacting their work. And once this is specified, everyone can try and resolve those blocking issues, remove them out of the way, and this is normally facilitated by the Scrum Master. And this plays an important role because it's about accountability, what everyone is working on a daily basis. This improves daily accountability and is effective for the product to succeed. The next important ceremony is a sprint review. This normally happens at the end of the sprint or a milestone, and this will be typically between 30 to 60 minutes. This is a great opportunity to showcase the work that has been done as part of the sprint. Normally you invite customers and any other stakeholders like people from the sales, technical sales or pre-sales, the product owner, and everyone are invited to participate in this review meeting, and any demonstrations of the product, the UI or tests that have been run, and anything that's demonstrable, even it could be a design document or an architectural document, is being demonstrated, and immediate feedback from the stakeholders is received and captured and then applied in future sprints. So inviting the customer or sponsor users is optional, but it's always encouraged that you do so you can get some early feedback on the product itself. The last ceremony is a sprint retrospective. This is normally again done at the end of the sprint or milestone. This is a really important ceremony in terms of process improvements. So it's typically between 30 to 60 minutes. What happens is it's what's working, what's not working, and are there any puzzles. So each team member will come up with a sticky note or their own points on how the sprint work happened, and did it go well or did it go wrong, what went wrong, what could have been improved. All these things, every team member will have their own opinion and everyone will discuss, and eventually an action plan is created so that feedback can be applied and actions taken. This ceremony is also facilitated by the Scrum Master. Optionally, the product owner could also be invited to this.